My dear, you don't lack confidence and you certainly don't lack courage. You are not broken. You learned very early on that being yourself came with a cost, and now your body remembers that cost even when your mind wants to move forward. So if you've ever asked yourself, how do I become more authentic? How do I feel proud without feeling exposed? How do I live as myself without fear? Then this video is for you. So my dear, let me be very clear right from the off what this video is not about. This is not a just be fearless speech. It's not love yourself harder. And it's certainly not pretending that confidence magically appears when you want it bad enough. This is a queer survival conversation, my dear, because queer people don't grow up learning that authenticity is safe. We learn that it's negotiable, conditional, and something you earn if you behave correctly. And what I want to give you today is not permission to be loud, but permission to be real. Look, nobody is born afraid to be themselves. Fear is taught. Queer people learn early that authenticity can cost. It can cost love, it can cost safety, it can cost approval, it can cost belonging, it can cost housing, jobs, family, your faith, and even your community. So we adapt, we soften our voices, we edit our joy, we rehearse sentences before even saying them, we apologize before we even allow ourselves to exist, and eventually shrinking feels normal. And if that's you, I need you to hear this very clearly. That's not weakness. That was intelligence. So my dear, let me ground this in something real for you, all right? I didn't grow up feeling safe being fully myself. I learned very quickly which parts of me were acceptable and which parts got silence, side eyes, or outright rejection. There were rooms that I would walk into where I became quieter without even noticing. Places where my body softened itself before my mouth ever did. Not because I was lying, but because I was surviving. And I remember thinking for a long time that something was wrong with me for doing that, that if I were braver or stronger or more evolved, I wouldn't need to. But that's simply not true. That version of me was intelligent, he was observant, and he was reading the room correctly. And if that's you, if you've learned to shrink early, that doesn't mean you failed at being yourself. It means you succeeded in staying safe. The problem isn't that you learned this. The problem is nobody told you that one day you'd be allowed to unlearn it. Your nervous system did its job and it kept you safe. Let's be clear though, your nervous system did its job, but it's also a tad dramatic. Some of you are reacting to a mildly awkward conversation like it's a Victorian scandal. You're like, oh no, I expressed an opinion, I must now flee the country. Relax. No one is calling the council, no one is revoking your gay card, and the queue at Pret will survive without you apologizing 17 times. You're safe. Take a breath. You're just queer and overthinking. It's fine. Survival skills are not meant to be a permanent home. My dear, confidence isn't missing from you. Confidence is what happens when your body believes you will survive being seen as yourself. Let me show you the difference, because this is where people get stuck, my dear. So fear would say, if I'm seen, something bad will happen. Confidence doesn't say nothing bad will happen. What confidence does say, my dear, is even if something bad happens, I'll be okay. And that's the shift. Confidence isn't certainty, it's capacity. It's not about believing that everyone will accept you, because the truth is they won't. But it is about trusting yourself to survive even if they don't accept you. And that's why confidence doesn't appear overnight. It's built slowly through proof. Every time you survive being honest, every time you speak and the world doesn't end, every time you're misunderstood and still standing at the end, that's not bravado, that's evidence. receipts. And if visibility once led to pain, rejection, or punishment, then your system learned a very simple equation. Authenticity equals danger. So of course confidence feels unreachable. You're not unmotivated, you're just protecting yourself. This is why telling queer people to just be proud doesn't work. Pride doesn't come from pressure, my dear, it comes from safety, and safety comes first. Now, my dear, believe this or not, most people aren't actually afraid of being themselves. They're afraid of losing relationships, of being judged, of being alone, being targeted, being misunderstood, or being told that they're too much, or not enough. And that fear, my dear, is not irrational. But here's the quiet truth that we don't say out loud often enough. Staying hidden also has a cost. Also, let's acknowledge something very important. Queer people don't fear authenticity because we're delicate. We fear it because we've got receipts. Oh, that felt like a good idea at the time. Anyway, we've tried it before. We were there. We wore the outfit. We said the thing and the room went, anyway. So yes, fear exists, not because you're weak, but because you've a lived experience and a pattern recognition, which frankly is hot. I see this a lot in drag. I've lived it. Before I stepped into Kinky, I edited myself constantly. As a cis-gay male presenting performer, I would go into bars and realise that there was a room full of expectations on me. So I edited myself and I stopped myself from being my full self. It's not just the clothing, my opinions, my humour, my edge. I was still performing, but I wasn't fully inhabiting it. And the thing is, from the outside, it looked completely fine. People clapped, the shows worked, nobody complained, but internally, I was exhausted, my dear, because when you're not fully yourself, every interaction costs you more energy. You know that exhaustion when you leave a room and you think, why am I so tired? I didn't do anything. But you did. You performed. You code switched multiple times. You filtered jokes. You adjusted your tone. You monitored your reactions. You were basically running Windows 95 in your head with 43 tabs open, and we all know how that goes. Of course you're tired. You weren't living, you were buffering. Every laugh feels earned instead of natural, and every room feels like negotiation. The moment I stopped shrinking my point of view, not becoming louder, just becoming truer, everything shifted. Not because everyone loved it, but because I did. And that's the cost that people don't talk about. You can survive hiding, but you can't rest there. It costs you energy, it costs you joy, it costs you intimacy, and it costs you time. And one day it will eventually cost you your true self. This isn't about blame, but it is about honesty. So my dear, here is where I need to slow us down. Authenticity, believe it or not, is not a dramatic reveal. It's not a declaration, and it's not a single moment of bravery. Authenticity is a practice. I want you to take a pause with me for just a second, my dear. Think about the last time you stopped yourself from saying something honest. Not something dramatic, just honest. Maybe it was a preference or a boundary or a feeling. Ask yourself this gently: what did I think would happen if I said that out loud? Rejection? Awkwardness? Conflict? Now ask the second question, and this one really, really matters. Has that outcome already happened at some point in your life? Because very often we're not reacting to the present, we're reacting to the memory. Your body is responding to an old lesson, not a current situation. And that doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. It's small, it's incremental, and it's gentle. Let me give you something practical. Start with micro truths. You don't tell everyone everything. You tell the truth where it feels the safest. One sentence, one preference, one boundary. Choose your witnesses. Not everyone deserves access to you. Let's say this in drag terms. Not everyone gets backstage. Some people get the highlight reel. Some people get the trailer. And some people just get the press release. And some people get nothing at all. And that's not cruelty, that's curation. You are not fucking Netflix. You do not need to be available in all regions. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, my dear. This one can feel particularly uncomfortable, especially for queer people, because we're taught that if we don't share everything, then we're being dishonest. And that is fundamentally not true. Privacy is not deceit, and discernment is not betrayal. I don't show every version of myself to every audience, and I don't bring King Key into every room. I don't owe anyone the parts of me that they haven't earned the right to handle well. Authenticity doesn't mean exposure. It means alignment. You are allowed to be really selective. And some people are not safe containers for your truth. And that does not make you dishonest. It makes you discerning. Remove the apology reflex. You can be kind without shrinking, and you can be polite without erasing yourself. Watch how often you apologize for existing and stop doing it. Let yourself be unfinished. The real you is awkward. It's inconsistent and it's fucking messy. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're doing it with honesty. Now, my dear, let's talk about pride. We always talk about pride as if it's a requirement, but guess what? It's not. Pride is not where you begin. Pride is what grows after fear loosens its grip. This is something I see constantly in your comments. People saying, I'm not there yet, or I don't feel proud, or I still feel scared. And I want to say this very, very clearly. That does not mean you're behind. Some people are loud because they were allowed to be loud. Some people are quiet because silence kept them alive, and neither is wrong. Pride is not a deadline, my dear, it's a byproduct. And if all you're doing right now is learning how not to abandon yourself, that counts. Some people are loud, but some, my dear, are quiet. Also, quick reminder, if your version of pride is staying home, lighting a candle and thinking, I survived another year, that still counts. You don't have to be on a float, you don't have to own a mesh top, and you certainly don't have to be glitter adjacent. Some of you are pride, the quiet edition, and honestly, very chic. Some people are visible and some, my dear, are private. And all of these are absolutely valid. You do not owe the world your most exposed self. You owe yourself your most truthful one. My dear, drag taught me something extremely important. Performance isn't about hiding. It's about exaggerating truth until it becomes undeniable. Drag didn't make me braver. Drag didn't give me courage. It just revealed it. When I stepped into drag, I exaggerated parts of myself that already existed. The confidence, the humor, the authority. Those parts were always there. They just didn't feel safe to use everywhere. Drag gave me a container. It gave me a vessel. And that's something that people really misunderstand. Drag isn't an escape, it's permission. Sometimes you need a heightened version of yourself to prove the quieter one is real. It showed me what parts of myself I'd already been surviving with. Sometimes art gives us permission before real life does. And sometimes the loudest version of you exists so the quiet version can finally breathe. So my dear, if you're waiting for the day that you finally feel fearless, well please my lovely, stop waiting. That day may never come, but you don't need fearlessness. What you do absolutely need is just one honest moment, one safe connection, one place where you can stop abandoning yourself. That's how confidence grows, that's how pride forms, and that's how authenticity survives. And if all you do this week is protect one small truth about yourself, you're already doing enough. You don't need to become your true self overnight. You become your true self every time you choose not to disappear. If this video found you at a moment where you're tired of disappearing, then I want you to truly hear this. You don't have to arrive fully formed. You don't have to be fearless, my dear, and you don't have to be visible to everyone. Just stop abandoning yourself in the small moments. That's where change actually happens. And if you feel safe enough, I'd love to know in the comments, what part of yourself are you learning to protect right now? And before we get all emotional and serious again, I just want to say one thing. If you are currently on a journey of self-discovery, of authenticity, healing, confidence and self-growth, please be aware that your journey will include at least one bad haircut, at least one opinion you regret sharing, and at least one era where you think, why did no one stop me? That's not failure though, my dear. That's character development. Trust the process and delete the photos later. So my dear, remember this. You are not late to becoming yourself. You're right on time.